here we are, Talbot Street.
Everybody's come through the doors of this building, haven't they? And all sorts of things.
Yeah, they've come through for complaints, confessions to murder, and of course Gerry Hutch snuck in this building as well late at night one night and did an interview.
And flowers.
And flowers.
Don't forget the flowers, because we're going to tell all these stories at the Cork Podcast Festival, which is our show's actually on the 30th of March in the Opera House. Tickets are on sale from the corkpodcastfestival.ie, and they're selling fast. We've only got, 2 weeks left?
2 weeks left, yeah. You look like you've been arrested in Las Vegas or something like that, don't you? We're actually going to talk.
I have.
We're actually going to talk about Donald Trump, but you do look a bit Trumpian, you know, his famous mugshot.
I'm going to just stare at one corner of the room here and not answer any questions, which will really screw you up for a podcast. But yeah, I do look like I've been arrested.
Yeah, but you're not.
You just need, actually, if somebody could superimpose those things on the wall behind me, it'd be grand.
Yeah.
So how many times do you think you got the video of Gerry Hutch at the White House?
I mean, I got it so many times, but actually I got it straight away, I think, after it went up, and I didn't look at it because I was just busy. But I have to say, I broke my heart laughing while watching it.
Yeah.
Because
it was particularly funny.
Yeah, it was particularly good.
So give a shout out to the comedian who has, and he's done actually quite a few.
Look, there's a few people doing them, but this guy is undoubtedly the best. The Instagram handle is Connor_sketches. It's comedian Connor Moore. But like he struck gold. Like, he's great anyway. And he does, he primarily, he does a lot of the politicians. He does a great Mary Lou, actually, which can have a touch of a Nicola Talent. If he was to do a Nicola Talent to Mary Lou accent, it wouldn't be too far away, I think.
The accent is never too far away, all right.
No.
I've been told that before. It is that similar irritating sort of South County Dublin thing,
exactly,
isn't it?
Even though she's from the Cabra, but... No, he does, but he struck gold, I think, with Gerry Hutch.
I like his Micheál Martin.
Yeah, he
does
as
well.
Yeah, and
I think it's really good.
It is.
So for anyone who hasn't seen it, and no doubt if you're listening to this and you haven't, you'll go on and have a look at it. Gerry Hutch in this sketch is brought along to the White House with Micheál Martin to meet Trump as a kind of a
tough guy, because he says because he doesn't want to be bullied like Zelensky was. Trump
Zelensky was badly bullied by Trump and Vance, so he's bringing along Gerry Hutch. And Gerry Hutch is sitting there and he's looking kind of bored and underwhelmed, I think, which is exactly probably the way he would be if he was brought to the White House as Micheál Martin's right-hand man. But quickly he charms Trump and starts speaking his own language. And in a very clever way, they do sort of find one another in that they were both cheated out of the election. They were both almost shot at, and they were both done for tax.
Yeah, targeted for tax purposes. Cab was up Gerry's hole while as he says.
Okay, so tell me, who's this guy?
Gerry The Monk is my name. What's the story?
And are you a politician?
No, but I nearly was until the election was stolen from me.
Mr. Hutch, no, come on, that's a load of codswallop. That is not how would you
Gerry,
that?
the same thing happened to me. And after it, then they accused me of not paying my taxes. I think it was so bad.
Exact same thing happened to me over there. That cab were up me hole for years, had I wore.
Well, they actually tried to put me in jail too, Gerry.
They tried to put me in jail as well, what?
Well, they also tried to assassinate me, Gerry. It was so bad.
Get out of it. That's the same thing happened to me. The fucking how many times?
How about we give the shamrock over, lads? Get an old picture on that,
Anyone ever told you have a great colour?
And of course, we have seen a couple of social media videos of Gerry out enjoying himself.
Yeah.
He ends up throwing a kind of a party. He gets connected to Bluetooth.
Yeah.
And starts dancing, and
of course, Trump famously does his sort of hand movement dance. That's at his rallies, and like that's been copied by sort of sports stars and the American footballers, where his movement is all as his hands. So let's put it that way, you know.
Yeah. So anyway, it's really funny, but we were thinking that how apart from the actual clip being funny, it is funny that where Gerry Hutch has come, because this time 2 years ago, he was in prison.
Yeah.
He was in the throes of the Regency trial, and we were coming up to the Easter break, at which point the trial sort of took the break for the judges to come back with their verdict. And Easter of 2023 was in April. And there was this sort of 2-week gap when they was, I suppose, alone in a cell, wondering what life was going to throw at him, or the courts rather, the special criminal court, because it was really jeopardy. It was either one thing or the other. He was either going to walk free, or he was going to be jailed, convicted of the murder of David Byrne and jailed mandatory for life. So it was a very stark time, I suppose, this time 2 years ago for him. Now, as we know, he was found not guilty and he walked free to what became the beginning of this extraordinary reinvention of the monk, really, over the past couple of years. He didn't speak to anybody when he got out of custody that time. He created, or a circus was created around him, I think, on the roads outside the courts. And he was eventually taken away by a taxi, went back to the family, and started to sort of really just hang out in Dublin, didn't he? He was just up and down the street, meeting with friends, having a pint, enjoying himself. He didn't flee to Lanzarote as was initially expected. And he certainly didn't go back into hiding. He did exactly the opposite.
I suppose it's a funny thing. I mean, it's not so long ago we spoke about a discount store putting up an ad about relating to the Kinahans, where, again, you see these things have become embedded in the public consciousness. The Hutch-Kinahan feud, those names, those figures, they have stretched from, I mean, we talk about criminals all the time on Crime World that would have no name recognition beyond the people that are interested in criminal matters. I mean, Gerry Hutch and the Kinahans have long passed that and have become part of popular consciousness. So in whatever way the Kinahans have become in the public mind is extremely sinister, criminal operation, ruthless, dangerous, amoral, perfectly justified in terms of their own actions. But in another way, Gerry Hutch has become something totally different in the public consciousness, sort of the underdog. Nobody thinks, no angel, but, obviously he has enough popularity to stand for election in Dublin and not just get votes from within his community, but pick up votes from middle class areas of the north side, even pick up transfers of the main political establishment parties, to attract votes from all across the spectrum. Now, why is that? I don't know, but the fact is, can you see somebody doing a sort of cutesy video with a Daniel Kinahan impersonator?
I was about to say that. I don't think you can. I mean, what we've seen out of the Kinahan, and of course this was, financed by their own camp, was that bizarre movie that was released around the Regency, where Daniel Kinahan is portrayed as this very sort of handsome, moody leader who is under attack and who manages to flee and escape in a very kind of like movie style way.
Yeah.
And that's how he would like to portray himself. No, I cannot see a comedian doing a sketch about Daniel Kinahan just yet.
Yeah.
If ever. I don't know whether there's that same, maybe there's a belief, and I do think that Gerry Hutch probably could laugh at this White House video himself. I mean, you kind of know he'd find that funny, don't you?
You do know that. Yeah, you do know that.
He'd be able to. He's not going to turn around and probably try and send a rocket launcher into the studio that made it, or do anything as ridiculous as that. He has got an ability to sort of be entertained by himself and by this profile that he has established. But he's sort of always had that unique place, hasn't he? I mean, he's always had a bit of a relationship with the media, a bit of a, an on-off kind of an ability to come out of the shadows and go back into them. But he never comes across, I don't think, as particularly sinister.
No, I mean, he was, look, the term ordinary decent criminal existed before Gerry Hutch, but it certainly is a part of popular consciousness in Dublin. So the ordinary decent criminals, as many people will know, the idea was that these people were engaged in criminality, serious organised criminality, but they weren't preying on their own community. So the belief was that bank robbers, for example, or people targeting sort of, other sort of armed robberies, they were targeting either the rich or arms of the state or faceless institutions like banks. And that while the establishment may look down on these people and consider them wrongdoers within their own communities, they were regarded as ordinary decent people because they didn't burglarize within the community, they didn't engage in violence within the community. Now that's a part of Irish popular culture. Like, I don't think it exists like that in places like Scandinavia or places like that. But that comes from maybe our own cultural history, where, we had not to get into our own cultural history, but we had people who didn't feel allegiance to the state that existed for many generations. So Gerry Hutch has managed to stay there. Now, there are other perspectives on him. Very strong perspectives.
Oh, for sure.
And those,
that's what I was going to say. A lot of people wouldn't find this amusing at all, that he is, becoming this sort of cultural figure. And there's a lot of people within law enforcement that suggest he is a very dangerous character, that suggest he is the head of the Hutch organised crime group. I think the courts have stated that, and in particular, he's head of the Hutch family. But there is something about him that he's able to, he's been able to develop this persona that is sort of non-threatening to the general public, isn't it? And a lot of it has been his own work, because as he's always been able to step in and out of media.
The famous, I suppose, one of the most famous incidents that I think it's in the film Veronica Guerin, but people probably forget about it. But if you go back to the history, Veronica Guerin, before she was brutally murdered, she had been shot non-fatally. And at that point, I think Gerry Hutch had really started to become a prominent criminal figure in the city. And he had either been, he had been either a suspect or been blamed. And she had called to his door, I think, to confront him. If I'm remembering this all correctly, but he had spoken to her extensively, had particularly strongly denied that he'd been involved in any shooting, which I think she accepted. And he'd been engaging with the media. That was only, he'd already previously engaged in the media, and we've seen some of this footage as a teenager. And I think on a radio program, hasn't he, as well? If you go back when he was part of the Bugsy Malone gang, we actually did a podcast with Ken Foy about this new gang called the Lucky Dip Gang, who are teenagers as well, involved in joyriding and crime. And it's amazing the narrative, because Gerry Hutch was one of those original tearaway teens. So he's always engaged with the media to an extent. I suppose that has allowed him to hold on to that image. Look, the other truth about it is, with Gerry Hutch, is that within his own community, there are a lot of people who support him. Now, that a lot of those people would wouldn't think he's an angel, but he does have support. So if you look at people who are involved in the Kinahan cartel, if they stood for election, they wouldn't be getting those amount of votes. However, there is absolutely another side. There are people who don't support him, and we heard some of those voices within his own community, as well within the establishment, the guards in particular. There's also people who will speak about being affected by criminality associated, what is described by the police as the Hutch organised crime group. But yeah, it's a really complex picture, I think, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I just wonder, though, how many people who are described as, leading figures in organised crime are appearing on comedy sketch shows.
Well, very little.
It's quite extraordinary, really.
It is quite extraordinary. And can I say, like, if you look at some of the, like, he has it's something equivalent to the kind of outlaw, in the US Wild West. Gerry Hutch has that kind of image nearly. If you go back to people like Ned Kelly, who of course was Irish, and many of these figures in the US, in the Wild West in the US, were Irish as well. But like somebody like Ned Kelly, who was, a very violent criminal, but managed to become almost a folk hero as well. Like Gerry Hutch kind of has that persona in modern day Ireland, which is quite incredible.
For sure. Now, I mean, he's still, another side of the coin, he is still facing charges relating to money laundering in Spain, where, of course, he was picked up, he was arrested out there shortly before he announced that he was running for the general election, and shortly after the story leaked that he was possibly running for the general election. I mean, that incident really, and he told us himself when he came in to do the podcast, spurred him onwards to stand for election. He particularly doesn't believe it was a coincidence, and he believed it was a way of the state trying to silence him and trying to force him out of running. So he is still facing those charges. We know he's still part of, or certainly the Hutch organised crime group, are certainly part of a wider investigation into corruption here in Ireland. So, I mean, he's still got all that going on. And at the same time, he is a sort of a folk hero within this comedy sketch arena. Now, we have to say, because we're broadcasting this on St. Patrick's Day, we did suggest that by today, Sean McGovern be home.
Yeah. Well,
so can I just say a failing? Maybe we didn't get the exact day right. We're still sort of hopeful. We're not too far off.
We're pointing out our own failures now. We could have.
Yeah, well, why not? Everybody else will. So
we'll have a lot more. We won't be struggling for material, I suppose, in future. But no, I mean, I think the Sean McGovern thing, as far as we know, there is no change. We're obviously recording this at the end of the week, so we could even be out of date. But as far as we know,
we'd be happy to pull this, wouldn't we?
We'd be happy to pull this if Sean McGovern appears in court.
We'd be happy to pull it in an effort to say, we told you so.
Yeah, we can always make time for a night. We told you so. Look, we still believe what has been written. While the date may change, we believe that some of his appeals are at the end, that the all things being equal, he will be home in Ireland imminently. There's always, with any court procedure, and certainly in a place like Dubai, where it's even more obscure, the court procedure, that he is coming to an end, and that there are no barriers, and it'll be a big, big moment for the Gardaí, because it'll indicate that the Kinahans are not safe and that they may be next. So we may have got our dates wrong.
We may have got our dates wrong anyway. So apologies for that, listeners. But otherwise, we're usually kind of good though at hands up. We made a mistake here, but I knew this was going to come. I knew it was going to come to this. Actually, we were just putting all our eggs in one basket by actually saying the date. It was like putting it all on black or putting it all on red.
No, of course. But look, the reality is that we've seen major criminal figures from Europe extradited from Dubai, that they have a number of grounds for appeal to stop the extradition, including sort of religious persecution and various matters like that, or that the criminal codes don't match in each country. All of those sort of standard appeal procedures have been gone through, and McGovern his days are numbered, we still believe.
What are you doing for St. Paddy's Day?
Well, I will sit at home and do very little. Why would I change my routine just because it's Paddy's Day? I will do exactly what I would do. Is it a Monday?
It's a Monday, of course.
Yeah, so I'll do exactly what I do every Monday. I'm not going to.
Well, I'm hoping to be out of custody by then.
Right.
Actually, the cops are coming back in here now to question me more. I'm hoping my solicitor arrives soon. I'm allergic to Zooms. I hate these bloody things.
No. I mean, I went. Look, no, I won't be. What about yourself? You're not appearing on any.
I told you, I'm hoping to get out of custody.
You're not appearing on any float or anything like that, no?
No. Actually, funny enough, no.
Guest of honor in the Dubai St. Paddy's Day parade.
No.
The Crime World float would be good.
It would actually, wouldn't it? We could have a bit of fun with that.
It'd be good.
Do you remember the years when was it Longford? There was a kind of a local.
I know they do. They continue to do it every year. Yeah, I mean they did the Burks recently, didn't they? And they did the Carlow Post Office. So something else will be done. They will continue to do it.
Yeah,
I remember the years as a reporter. I remember being sent out as a younger reporter. Go out on Paddy's Day now and find teenagers vomiting and walking the streets looking for.
Why?
I don't know. The world is coming to an end.
It was sort of like the St. Patrick's Day shame kind of thing.
Yeah.
What sort of a media did you work for?
It's very similar ones than you did, Nicola, I have to say.
Yeah. I was never sent out to look for vomers, I have to say. But anyway, so look, onwards, I suppose. Maybe the week ahead will prove us correct on
maybe
Mr. McGovern, and maybe not. Maybe the month.
Yeah, maybe the month. But we're not backing down.
Right. No, we're not. We'll hold our ground.
Yeah.
Okay, now.
Thanks, Nicola. Robbie Lawler was out of control.
This is Double Cross, the murder of Robbie Lawler.
It was going to be an all-out war with him in the middle of it.
Crime World special investigation podcast based on my new book, Web of Betrayal, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Nicola Tallant and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.